Most of the time I feel like people are doing me a favor by being my friend. I work on it though. There's a way that you can tell my story where I'm a nice, privileged white girl from the suburbs that got into some trouble and then redeemed herself. Everyone likes a redemption story. But there's a way that you can look at me that I'm racked with mental illness and drug addiction exacerbated it for more than a decade. There's a way to tell my story where I'm failing up, and there's a way to tell my story where I'm triumphant. Both of them are true. I wrestle with darkness daily. Even the light of the sun is artificial sometimes, you know?
I've struggled with depression and anxiety since I experienced trauma at age 14. I tried to deal with it the right way by going to therapy and taking antidepressants on and off for 2 years. It wasn't instant enough for me. I needed something more. I can still remember the first time I got high. Nothing hurt. Everything was funny. That was the beginning of a 13-year journey trying to escape reality with drugs and alcohol.
I am a person in long-term recovery. I am a drug addict.
The word alcoholic never made sense to me.
I did overdose a couple of times, have been arrested twice.
I've been sober for 2 years.
I will have 5 years this coming April.
I've lived in New York for 2.5 years now.
I live in Washington, D.C., and I live downtown. It's very hustle and bustle. And I spend a lot of time out in the country.
I'm the founder of sobrietyparty.com, which is my blog where I write about being sober here in the city, things to do, how to live in this crazy city being sober, how I cope with it, really. Not how to, but more how I cope with it.
I'm an advocate for sane drug policy in the United States. And what that really means is starting with scientific evidence, human rights, and compassion in order to shape the way that we as a country talk about and legislate drugs and people that use drugs.
I am the host of a reading series called Readings on Recovery, where I get readers from the New York area, the East Coast really, to share their personal stories about what recovery means to them. So it's not so much about being sober, it's more focused on recovery. So I'll have some readers that'll talk about substance abuse, of course, but there's some people that'll discuss eating disorders or sexual assault or dysfunctional family relationships. And my intention in curating it that way is to show that we're essentially all recovering from something. You don't have to be an addict to be able to empathize and understand the recovery and sober community.
And the philosophy that I really espouse as a person that cares about recovery advocacy, but also drug policy, is harm reduction. So harm reduction sort of starts with the idea of don't die. Just don't die when you're using drugs, and the rest, we can figure out. In my opinion, drugs are value neutral. This is not, and I'll stop and say this is not a popular opinion among a lot of the recovery community. This ruffles a lot of feathers, so I understand this might not be well received as I say it, but I think drugs are value neutral. I don't think they are good or bad. I think they just are, and I think they exist. And I think that the idea that we're going to prohibit drugs and get them away from the populace is ridiculous, and I think it's very short-sighted. Since humans evolved into humans, we've been using intoxicants of some sort, and I don't think that's going to stop just because there are laws against it. And I think that the drug war has terrible consequences for drug users. I think the drug war has terrible consequences for people that sell drugs to support their habit. I myself was one of those people at one time. And I also think that the drug war has really bad consequences for those of us that are drug addicts.
Growing up in Waco in a very conservative, I probably shouldn't go there, right?
Yeah, we can say that.
Hang me, oh, hang me, and I'll be dead and gone. Hang me, oh, hang me, and I'll be dead and gone.
Growing up in Waco as a teenager, at least, it was just how do you deal with your boredom more than anything.
Wouldn't mind the hanging, but the laying in the grave. So long, poor boy, I've been all around this world. Been all around Cape Jordan and parts of Arkansas. All around Cape Jordan and parts of Arkansas.
In high school, I remember pretty much everyone I knew, and I don't mean everyone in my social group, I mean everyone at the high school, drank, did drugs, smoked cigarettes, I mean, all of those vices, I guess you would say, pretty much everyone engaged in on some level.
I got so goddamn hungry I could hide behind a straw. Poor boy, I've been all around this world.
And really, I think addiction is easier in a place like Waco, where you grow up with it and it's kind of accepted, and you drinking as an adult is just a continuation of you drinking from the time you were, old enough to get your hands on alcohol.
I went up on the mountain, and there I made my stand. Went up to the mountain, and there I made my stand. Rifle on my shoulder, and a dagger in my hand. Poor boy, I've been all around this world.
So I think it's really interesting because you and I have never met until today.
Right.
But we both grew up in Waco.
Yep.
We both went to the same high school.
Yep.
Midway.
Go Panthers.
Midway. We had a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah.
And people, I don't know about you, but people would tell me about you. Like, dude, you've got to hook up with B-Ray. Like, she hosts the best parties. She has the best Coke. She's like, she's the girl to know.
Hang me, oh, hang me, and I'll be dead and gone. Hang me, oh, hang me, and I'll be dead and gone. I wouldn't mind the hanging, but the laying in the grave. So long, poor boy, I've been all around this world. He put the rope around my neck and hung me up so high. Put the rope around my neck and hung me up so high. Last words I heard him say, won't be long now for you die. Poor boy, I've been all around this world. Well, hang me, oh, hang me, and I'll be dead and gone. Hang me, oh, hang me, and I'll be dead and gone. I wouldn't mind the hanging, but the laying in the grave. So long, poor boy, I've been all around this world. No, I wouldn't mind the hanging, but the laying in the grave. So long, poor boy, I've been all around this world.
we should do some shots.
We should do shots. What kind of shots did you bring us?
These are from Malibu. They're core shots, and it is wheatgrass and spirulina. And I've been promised that they are not sour and taste delicious.
Let's get weird.
Let's get weird! This just proves that you can party sober.
You totally can. I open things with my teeth. I know it's not glamorous, but it's me. I'm filtered. Okay, what's our toast? I'll let you lead it.
All right. There's a lot of assholes in this world. None of them are here.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. Woo!
When I was younger, when I was in high school, I was in the habit of smoking weed every day, every morning. I don't know if I needed it. I don't know if it was habitual. I don't know if it was an addiction. I honestly don't know. But that progressed into pills, and that was a whole other thing. But it was very short-lived. It was when I was in high school. But this was like where I was. I was getting high every morning, lunch break, and after school, weed. And then I was taking probably 3 or 4 hydrocodone throughout the day, and 4 to 5 Xanax bars, like the full bars.
Oh my God.
Daily.
That's a lot.
And then one day I'm in science and my body just, I don't remember this, but my body gives out. I pass out. I cannot be woken up. My big issue was getting into the bartending world and partying and binge drinking and hanging out with other bartenders that live that same lifestyle.
We're bartending at George's, right?
I bartended at George's and Crickets
Yeah, I didn't
and Treff's
go.
and Diamondbacks.
See, I went to those bars, but not as much. I was one of my good friends owned Scrubs, and I was like a Scrubs.
I didn't have to drink to get out of bed. I didn't have to get high to get out of bed. It was just something that I enjoyed doing. I genuinely enjoyed getting intoxicated. I enjoyed who I was when I was intoxicated. I enjoyed what I did not feel when I was intoxicated. And I want to proudly say that I don't really know that the word addict doesn't really resonate with me, because I want other people to know that you don't have to be an addict to realize that you might suffer from substance abuse.
I love being clean and I love being sober. My life has completely turned around, and I am the person I always wanted to be when I was using. So that sort of keeps me going. But I do think about drugs all the time. I really miss weed. I really miss cocaine. I always say that the drugs worked until they didn't. It's actually one of the things in my new poetry book that just came out. It's the beginning of one of the last poems. And it's very true. I used drugs to self-medicate a lot of childhood trauma and abuse. And drugs saved my life over and over again. And I really do believe I'm a better person because of exploring drugs and really I had a lot of years to do them, so I've done all different kinds of drugs, but I also do know that there are negative consequences, and I've hurt a lot of people, and I have to live with that as well. I think that living in the real world and like this raw, real reality is like the trippiest thing possible. I spend a lot of time out of my mind and like exploring different states of consciousness, whatever, and I think the weirdest, most bizarre thing in the world is real life. I really do.
Right.
I do. Not having drugs in my life is a very huge hole that I don't think would ever be filled with anything else. And the whole thing about that, though, right, is that drugs don't fill that hole either. I sort of just sit back and live as an existentialist, try to sort of move forward every day.
Hey, my name is Dave Starr. I am Tawny Lara's father. I'm a musician, play guitar for Wildstar, and I've been clean and sober, 100% clean and sober for 12 and a half years. Well, when she was growing up, she was a great kid. I wanted one kid, I wanted a girl, and I got one kid, and I got a girl.
Moving from small town Waco to New York City, complete culture shock, like one of the biggest culture shocks I think I've ever gone through. I didn't know a whole lot about myself, and I didn't realize that at the time, but I knew I was partying, I knew I loved rock and roll because that's like what I grew up in. Dad's a heavy metal bass player. Mom was his groupie. Music has been part of my life forever.
I remember when Tawny came out, C-section baby. Yeah, she was. That was a day I'll never forget.
I'm an only child. I don't have any siblings. I don't have any cousins. So it was always me and a bunch of people that were way older than me. And I noticed that these people got along better when I was around, or I was entertaining them in some way. So it put me in this position where I had to control. I felt like I had to control everything and everyone around me. And then as an adult, as a teenager and as an adult, that transferred into trying to control friendships and boyfriends and other family members. And that's so unfair to them. But that control issue is also what led me to wanting to use. I was like, okay, well, this feeling sucks. So I can get high and not feel this. So that's a way that I can control it. I didn't want to do therapy. I mean, I went to therapy. I was on antidepressants, but I didn't want to. It wasn't fast enough. I needed something quick. So drugs and alcohol were quick, and they were there, and they helped me deal with these things for 12, 13 years.
I just looked at myself in the mirror that one day in the bathroom, and I just said, man, you're a piece of shit. You're not living, you're existing, and you're going to die if you don't get it together. So I think it really, no matter what you do if you're struggling, and I struggled because even though I made the decision that day, it took me 10 years to get to that point, because I knew, and I was lying to myself, that I was that I had a problem.
There's times when I genuinely just miss the taste of beer. I don't want to get drunk off of beer. I just want to have a beer, and I probably could. I'm sure I could, but then I just feel like that's such a slippery slope. Like, what if I have that one beer? Then why can't that be 2 beers? Then why can't that be a shot of Jack? So it's just I just rather not mess with it. I'm so happy without it. I'm so productive without it. There's no reason to even flirt with that. We finally come together in New York City in my apartment to talk about being sober and no longer being in that scene, no longer being in the Waco scene or the drug scene.
Yeah.
But how we've taken those experiences to be empowered.
Do you think? I don't know if any of my friends, even the ones I still have, whatever, I don't know that I was the person they thought would clean up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Were you that person too? Like.
Yeah. I think because I was just such a party girl, and I was like we made the parties happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would she get clean?
I grew up in Waco, and I went to Baylor for college, which is also in Waco. Both my parents are divorced, but they both went to Baylor, taught at Baylor, and so Waco and that community is my home. It is my hometown.
Fun and gregarious and kind of like the center of attention. My dad still loves B, and just because he loves crazy people.
I knew I was a hard partier, but I'm also like a sweetie, and I like my friends, and I want everyone to have a good time, and I never wanted anyone to get in trouble, so I would throw parties and try to have good drugs and good people and good music.
It's hard to separate out the behavior from the drug use, and Bethany had kind of become the life of the party in a new way, I guess you would say, or at least in my eyes, because Bethany could get drugs. She had access.
It was a way to hide from myself and a way to completely avoid dealing with anything in life. But I do have a lot of friendships still from those days, and I do, I have a lot of love for the people that I used with, and a lot of them, I'm still very close with, whether they use or not now.
When I first met B-Ray, when I think about it, I'm certain through discussions with her that she was using substances, but it was nothing that I encountered in my own background. And so I didn't quite understand maybe the circumstances that surrounded something more than just merely being at a party and drinking alcohol. And so it was only through the process of knowing her over a couple of years that I really discovered what her usage did to her and what she used it as a crutch in certain circumstances. And so to see her go from having to have something essentially to get through and taking that and using it as a reason to live has been kind of phenomenal.
But her behavior was different in that she was still the fun, gregarious girl that I remembered and that my family loved, but she had this like monkey on her back where obtaining, using, finding other people to use with, that became more important than, you know, maintaining friendships in a traditional way, like meeting someone for coffee or having a conversation with a person. It was more, you know, you bonded through drugs, and drugs really ruled your life in a very real logistical way that you spend time, you know, after a while you spend time just maintaining the habit more than anything.
There's a lot of sort of makeshift needle exchanges and drug checking people on college campuses, and you'd never know who they are, and they really do help sort of mitigate the harms of substance use. One of the issues with MDMA is a lot of times it's cut with methamphetamine, and so you have a kid that's just thinking they're going to go to a party and see some pretty lights and, you know, kind of be fucked up for 4 or 5 hours, and then all of a sudden, you know, they are in a completely different place psychologically, neurologically, and, you know, then basically like they're meth users, and then they might seek that out in the future and maybe not even know why. And it's a really insidious practice, and I do think, you know, in the long game, that decriminalization of drugs is a way to help regulate them, and to make sure that people that do use drugs are going to use them safely. Of course, you know, I would hope that people that use substances don't ever abuse substances or have a struggle with addiction like I did and like so many of us do. But for those that do, the same types of drug policies will ensure that they are able to get good health care, good treatment, that's not really religious-based or and just something that's based in sort of that's scientifically proven, peer-reviewed, and evidence-based. And we've been waiting a long time since the war on drugs started, I guess, in 1971, and we've been waiting a long time to have any of that. So that is sort of why I've picked drug policy and why this is what I want to do with my life.
Once I started getting to know her again, I found out, you know, I learned the kind of full extent of her commitment to sobriety and being healthy and, you know, personal growth and that kind of thing. And what was great about that was that even though she didn't have drugs and she didn't have alcohol, it was like I was seeing the same Bethany that I saw in high school. She was still fun, she was still gregarious, and still like the life of the party. It was just now you didn't need drugs to be the center of the room.
My name is Megan Torres. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Texas, and I also have a master's degree in art therapy. I've actually worked in the 4th largest jail in the country, Harris County Jail, which has a lot of individuals that have substance abuse issues as well as mental health issues. And I've also worked in an outpatient program that's partial hospitalization. Everyone in the program was dual diagnosis, mental health and substance abuse issues. It's difficult to be a therapist for people in recovery because you see them doing well in the program and you think that they're doing well, and then the next day they won't show up and you find out that they left and they're not coming back. And you see the same people come in and out of treatment, but, you know, then there are the people that persevere and do well, and you just hope the best for them.
You and I both have in common, we had very non-traditional education experiences.
Yeah.
And I remember
I dropped in and out because of mental health problems and drug use and things like that. I've been had three psychiatric stays. One was for quite some time. I'd been sober a couple of months, and then the other two were when I was in college.
It takes a lot of hard work and effort.
I was clear. Like everything in my head was starting to become more clear. Things, my relationship started improving. My relationship to myself started improving. It just it made way more sense for me to continue on this path of sobriety after the year was up. And so now it's been 2 years now, and we talked about this earlier, how people are like, oh, you're never going to drink again. It's like, I'm not drinking today.
I think it's really important for people that are in recovery to socialize with others who are in recovery or supportive of their recovery, because, as they say, you got to change your people, places, and things. So if they're hanging out with the same people they were while they were using, typically those people are using as well. So it's important to have a strong support system. So I think social gatherings for people who are in recovery is a great idea.
I think that the type of recovery advocacy that B-Ray is doing is necessary in tandem often with multiple options that are available, be it through therapy, be it through a desire to start with a 12-step program or have it tied to a religious advocacy group. But it doesn't mean that there can't be avenues available outside of each one of those. And I think what I appreciate most is that she is willing to include every one of those, but also take some out that maybe don't work for some people, whereas they work for other people. And it's only through really being honest about the type of person that's going through recovery, not the type of person who's leading that recovery, that's really where the important work gets done, and that's what she's after the most.
So true. So true.
What's the verdict?
It's good.
Reasons to quit. The coke and beer don't do me like before. I'm hardly ever sober. My friends don't come around much anymore. Reasons to quit. The low is always lower than the high. The reasons to quit don't outnumber all the reasons why. So we keep smoking, we keep drinking, having fun, never thinking, laughing at the price tags that we pay. We keep roaring down the fast lane like we're young and feeling no pain. The reasons to quit getting bigger every day. Reasons to quit. I can't afford the habit or the time. I need to be sober. I gotta write some new songs that'll rhyme. Reasons to quit. There ain't no rhyme or reason when you're high. The reasons to quit don't outnumber all the reasons why. So we keep smoking, we keep drinking, having fun, never thinking, laughing at the price tags that we pay. We keep roaring down the fast lane like we're young and feeling no pain. And the reasons to quit are getting bigger every day. The reasons to quit are getting bigger every day. Guitar's a little out of tune there. Oh well.